I especially admire how Ukrainians are so patriotic, how their love for their country is in everything they do. They're not ashamed about it. It's in their restaurants, it's in every corner of the street, it's in the clothes that they wear, it's in the jokes that they tell, the songs that they sing.
People have adopted this uncertainty, and this uncertainty is the new normal here.
It's not a war for Ukrainian independence. It's a war for freedom. It's a war for freedom of speech. It's a war of determining your own fate and of sovereignty. And no matter what your religion, you should fight for that in every country.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center, an NGO Euro-Atlantic course. And I'm your host, Miroslava Yaremkiv. From February 20 to 27, the Ukraine Crisis Media Center organized the first press tour for journalists from the Global South, with the aim of opening Ukraine to a region that does not have a strong Ukrainian presence in the informational field. Press tour was carried out in cooperation and coordination with the Open Society Foundation and International Renaissance Foundation. UCMC wanted to provide an opportunity to introduce journalists to the democratic institutions and public organizations of Ukraine, demonstrate the unique culture and history of Ukraine, and explain the peculiarities of Russian-Ukrainian relations through a post-colonial prism in order to contribute to a change of focus and a correct understanding of events in Ukraine, and also show the personal and humanitarian dimension of the war in Ukraine, as it resonates with international audiences on a deeper level. In today's episode, we're going to reflect on journalists' impression of Ukraine amidst war, their personal insights and conclusions of the trip. If you want to learn more about the subject, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our video in the future. When you are staying abroad, sometimes it's very hard to grasp what is happening in Ukraine, how people live their daily lives here, how places continue working amidst air raid alerts and missile attacks, and how the spirit of Ukrainians perseveres in the most dark and challenging times. So the first question we asked participating journalists was about their impression of Ukraine before they made this trip, and what changed after they spent a week in Ukraine.
I've known about Ukraine since I was a kid, and I know that it's a beautiful, great country in Europe. That's as far as what I knew about Ukraine before the invasion was. When I was already a journalist when the annexation of Crimea happened in 2014, so I have an idea that Ukraine is under attack from Russia. And then, and of course, I already was a journalist too when the full-scale invasion happened in 2022, and it was widely covered by Vice World News then, which I was working with Vice World News at the time. So the story has been in my attention. I may not have been watching it very closely, but I knew about it. I guess more than the average Filipino did. Before coming here, I was expecting like a war zone. I was expecting that, you know, it will be a gritty time, a difficult time. But coming here and being taken around the country by our friends from UCMC, it made me fall in love with the country. That it's a beautiful country, beautiful people. I especially admire how Ukrainians are so patriotic, how their love for their country is in everything they do. They're not ashamed about it. It's in their restaurants, it's in every corner of the street, it's in the clothes that they wear, it's in the jokes that they tell, the songs that they sing, and I find that very inspiring.
I thought it would be pretty much a mess, but it is not. I mean, people have adopted this uncertainty, and this uncertainty is the new normal here, you know. And I personally feel that the Ukrainians should come out with their stories and try to counter the propaganda that has been spread against their country more often than they have been doing. I know it requires funds, it requires help from the rest of the world, but I don't know how, but I feel they should come, speak their stories.
In our part of the world, honestly, we don't know too much about Ukraine because we're from Southeast Asia. So we just know it as a country being beside Russia, being attacked by Russia right now. But when I come here, I was captivated by the character and the soul that Ukraine has. I've covered a lot of countries, and very few countries have true characters and souls that you can feel, and that's very memorable. And Ukraine is one of those countries. I know you're the biggest country in Europe, so it feels funny to say this, but you feel like the little country that could. You're the little country that is willing to stand up for your rights, for your identity, for your heritage, and no matter the level of coercion and force being put against you, Ukrainians just say, no, this is the Ukrainian value, this is how I want to live my life. We want freedom, we want democracy, and that's what strikes me the most. Having come from Southeast Asia, not knowing much about Ukraine, coming here and learning about the Ukrainian character and grit is my biggest change in perception pre and post trip to Ukraine.
My main impression is mainly from reading the news, and obviously I was expecting it to be not exactly unsafe, but definitely there is war happening in like certain places, and I was expecting that there would be like destruction. But the impression that changed the most is how people are going about their daily lives, and like they're like very resilient in the process. Yeah.
We truly believe that traveling to a country that has been fighting its superpower terrorist neighbor for the 10th year in a row can be a humbling and insightful experience. So we asked the journalists from the Southeast Asia to share their personal insights and lessons they will take home with them from this trip.
In this era, every country haven't or cannot be a lone country or strong one country. Every country needs help from other country to help their independence, help from food, and then from supporting from international community. So when the war is begin, the other country will impact to the other country to, hey, don't attack or don't start the war in the another country.
When I visit here, I think the Ukraine very struggle and very tough to what is it? Very resiliency in the front line.
If you're in a war, if you're fighting for something very important for yourself, that it's you decide that you want it and you're gonna do everything for it. Like, it's personal in that sense because in the Philippines we also face similar geopolitical problems with our this is our superpower neighbor. So I can relate with the story of, you can either lie down, be a doormat, and just let things happen, or you have to put every inch of yourself into that fight to remain sovereign, to remain free, to fight for your identity as a nation. That it'll take, it's a decision, is what I'm trying to say, I guess, that you decide whether you're going to win or not. Because what strikes me about Ukraine's approach to this war is that there is no question about winning. Ukrainians believe they're gonna win, and I think, and I hope that hope will not disappoint. Like, because they believe they're gonna win, they're gonna win.
Us in Malaysia, we are a small country. We were colonized. We went through the journey. We are still, in a way, going through the journey of finding ourselves, developing the country. It's a big experiment. So I guess the lessons learned in Ukraine in regards to that is unlike any other lessons that you get from any other countries in Southeast Asia, for example. We were colonized by many European powers, but Ukraine is quite different. So the personal insights is, the attitudes and the grit and the spirit in not just developing the country physically in terms of the economy, but developing your character as a nation and just deciding and announcing who you are on the world stage. So I think every country can take a page from that.
And the last question that we asked was about what, in their opinion, Ukraine needs to win this war. It was very important for us to hear that opinion from the outside, and we were surprised how almost unanimous the answers were. Check it for yourself, and please do help Ukraine in its fight with the aggressor country.
And we see a lot of support and like solidarity and obviously a lot of like financial aid, but more than that, so that the people will continue to fight until they win.
Ukraine needs international support. Why? Because we cannot stand alone. We cannot do this thing alone. You need international support.
As my colleague just mentioned, I mean, Ukraine, of course, needs support from the rest of the world. Apart from that, I mentioned just now, they need to come out and tell the world their stories, what their sufferings are, what Russians are trying to propagate is not completely true. So I think if they manage to do that and have a certain stature at the world level, they will manage to kind of come as victorious.
More support from the international community, because we are here so-called representing media from the global south, right? That's exactly it, the global south. We have differing views, like it or not. In Southeast Asian countries, in particular Muslim countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, it has somewhat been overshadowed by what's happening in Gaza. And of course, there's that Islam tie between the people in Palestine, for example. So people feel more sympathy towards that. I guess besides the obvious physical things that Ukraine needs, like more weapons and more soldiers, I think what's probably equally as important is recognition from faraway countries that this war is just as important as any war, because this is not a war for Ukrainian independence, it's a war for freedom. It's a war for freedom of speech. It's a war of determining your own fate and of sovereignty. And no matter what your religion, you should fight for that in every country.
I think Ukraine in itself does not lack the determination or the unity to gather itself into fighting this war. I'm not 100% aware of the internal politics. Of course, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are issues of, questions of how to do certain things. But there is, I think, among Ukrainians, there is no question of what they're supposed to do. I think that much is clear to everybody. They're gonna fight Russia and they're gonna win this war and keep their country. So the world just needs to help Ukraine fight it, like with munitions, with funds, with military assets, with maybe perhaps even diplomacy. I don't know if international pressure on Russia will even work, but as far as what I've seen here, the biggest thing Ukraine needs now is for the rest of the world to help it to fight its battle.
You've been watching a special project by Ukraine Media Center and Euro-Atlantic course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian War, Ukraine and Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!